In today's show, Jalen Duren works out for the Trailblazers. Is he Portland's center of the future? Plus, how I landed Keegan Murray at number 7 in a community mock draft. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard, Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen every day, 5 days a week, free on all platforms, always free, always on all the platforms. So go check us out, make it your first listen every single day. In today's show, Jalen Duren, Memphis big man, has a solo workout in front of the Blazers brass at the practice facility in Tualatin. Let's talk about his strengths, his weaknesses, his fit in Portland, and whether he makes sense at number 7. And then we'll close the show with a little mock draft fun. I participated in a community mock draft run by a friend of the program, Richard Stamen, at Mavs Draft on Twitter and mavsdraft.com. And I think I did okay, and I want to share what I did with you and let you weigh in on it, either by harassing me in the YouTube comments or sending me an email at lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. Let's start with Jalen Duren in Portland on Monday for a solo workout. Just like a funny media thing, on Sunday, Benedict Mathurin from Arizona worked out for the Blazers privately, and there was he declined to do interviews, and there was no in-house media. The Blazers do some in-house media for their workouts. Clearly his people didn't want in-house media, or he didn't work out and he just met with the team and there was nothing to film. But it's like a super secret draft thing. And then Jalen Duren comes in on Monday and there's in-house media. The Blazers, produce a little, 40-second Twitter social media video of his workout. He meets with the media. He agrees to go on a local television program later that night. Jalen Duren came and did the rounds, kissing babies and whatnot here in Portland. That's neither here nor there, but a funny media thing for someone like me in the Blazers media world. But who is Jalen Duren? Well, he's a 6'10", 250-pound big man who is the AAC, American Athletic Conference Player of the Year in his lone season at Memphis, where he averaged 12 points, 8.1 rebounds, 1.3 assists, just under 1 steal, and 1.2 blocks per game. He shot 60% from the floor and 62.5% from the free throw line. It not a shooter, did not make a three in his lone college season. He is projected to go right in the Blazers range. I've seen him as high as 6, first pick outside the top 5, and I've seen him as low as 17 in mocks. 17 seems wild. I don't think he'll slip that far, and 6 seems a little bit high, but I think the Blazers at 7 is probably the most realistic landing spot for him. Conceivably, Indiana could draft him, but they got a stable of large folks that, with Miles Turner and Goga Bitadze and whatever they're going to do with Jalen Smith, they don't seem like a team that's going to draft a big in a lottery. So 7 seems like somewhere near Duren's draft ceiling. Let's just go strengths and weaknesses. As a caveat, I am not a big draft guy. I saw Duren play that game against Gonzaga in the NCAA tournaments, the one that was here. I didn't even see it in person. I watched it on TV from my couch. So I am learning about Jalen Duren the way probably many of you are, is by reading draft people and watching videos on YouTube and et cetera, listening to Locked On NBA Big Board, where my man Rafael Barlow says that one of the strengths for Jalen Duren is his underrated passing ability. One of the strengths you'll hear about him is he's just gigantic and he's a really good athlete. When he gets 2 feet in the paint, he's gonna, he can go up and finish. He doesn't have a bunch of post game, but can catch it at the dunker spot, catch it, near the rim and go up and through people. Great motor as a rebounder, and some real actual provable defensive skills. I think that the exciting thing about Duren is that not only is he gigantic, 6'10", he didn't do measurements at the NBA Combine, but reported, I've read this several places, I don't know where they got it from, but reported several places, probably in his AAU days, 7.5 inch wingspan. So big dude with long arms. He's huge. But some athleticism to stay in front of people on switches, to guard in space. Like, I think the switchability and the shot blocking and the strength and the motor, all real strengths. I've heard him compared to like young Dwight Howard, but that might be a little much. Dwight Howard's a Hall of Famer, or Andre Drummond might be a little much. Andre Drummond's a perennial all-star for a brief period of his career, or a borderline all-star, I should say, for a brief period of his career, and a stats monster. If Duren is either one of those two gentlemen, he's really good. But like, I don't really love NBA comps. I think the motor and the athleticism really stand out. And if he wasn't much of a passer in terms of like raw counting stats at Memphis, but I trust Rafael Barlow, friend of the program. Subscribe to his newsletter and listen to Locked On NBA Big Board. He's super plugged in with all things draft related. And if he says that Duren has more passing ability than he flashed at Memphis, I believe him. And a big man who plays hard and can pass can make up for some of his other lack of skills. And the weaknesses, I think, stand out with Duren. Like, he doesn't have back to the basket game. You can't really dump it into him in the post and go get it. He doesn't have any range. He's not a very good free throw shooter. His offense is roll hard to the rim, either catch it with a clean runway, or get little dump offs when guys drive to the rim, or control the offensive glass. Like, that's where he's going to get his offense done. He's not going to, if you switch onto him, he's not going to be able to mash mismatches and mash guards in the post with little jump hooks. You can get there, but like, he doesn't have that now. And he might be, because of that lack of offense, because of that lack of shooting, it might be hard for him to get like real significant impact playing time. Like, he could play for if the Blazers want to be good, significant impact playing time early on in his career. I think the defense and the rebounding allow him to play a small minute role early. But in terms of 28 plus minutes or whatever it might be, starter type minutes, he might be a little ways away from that, because he probably has some more skill to work out. Pretty raw offensively, but some defensive skills. I've heard some concerns read some concerns, and also listened to them on a couple YouTube vids. Actually, including Rich Stamen, who told me on this very podcast, at Mavs Draft on Twitter, shout out to Richard at Mavs Draft, said Duren's pick and roll defense is not his strength. Like, he's good guarding in isolation and he's okay switching and has some skills there, but like the sort of two-man nuance of team defense and pick and rolls is not a strength of his. And I think that can be a problem early on in your career, because you're going to get pick and roll to death when you're young, big in the league. They're just going to come after you. That doesn't mean that he can't help. I think like his strengths, can override some of his weaknesses, particularly early in his career. But the weaknesses are real. Like, the reason that he's not up at the top of the draft is because he does have some things to work on. So the question then becomes not so much like, where can he get better, or what happens if he develops a three-point shot. I think you want to start with what you have and build from there. So knowing what he has, is he a good fit with the Blazers? Is he a good fit at 7? Let's talk about that to close the show. And talk about that in the second segment. But before we get there, let me tell you about Prize Picks. You want to win a little bit of money? Try out Prize Picks. I use the app, and it's a daily fantasy app that you can use on your phone, or you can go to prizepicks.com. Super simple to use. You pick an entry between 2 and 5 players, and you just pick the over-under versus the lines that Prize Picks set. So points, rebounds, assists, whatever it may be, Prize Picks sets the line. You pick over and under based on that line, and you can win up to 10 times on any single entry if you have a 5-man ballot, 5-person ballot. But you don't have to win all 5 to win some money. You can win 3 out of 5, win 4 out of 5, and still get there. It's a ton of fun, super easy. You can do multiple sports. You don't just have to do NBA. You can go across the board and kind of bounce around with different sports and pick over under lines set by Prize Picks. But right now, if you download the app, first time users, go to prizepicks.com or download the app and use the promo code NBA. They'll put 50 free bucks in your account when the person on your first ballot you make scores 1 point. Pick Jason Tatum, pick Steph Curry. They're going to score 1 point in Game 3 of the NBA Finals. You're going to use the promo code NBA when you're signing up on the Prize Picks app. You're going to get 50 bucks immediately once they score that 1 point, and then you can go win some more money from there. That's Prize Picks Daily Fantasy made easy. All right. Let's talk about Jalen Duren. Strengths and weaknesses. We know him. But the question is, does he fit here with the Portland Trail Blazers? Maybe. I think is where I'm at. Let me be consistent and then I'll work through it. I have said that I am a little bit wary of drafting a center at 7 because versatility is so valuable in the modern NBA, and the Blazers already lack a little versatility on the roster. Dame is just a 1. Maybe, 1 or 2, whatever, but a 1. Anthony Simons is probably just a 1 on defense, but a 1 or a 2, right? Like these, they're not really like deep position, deep versatility. Yusuf Nurkic is a straight up 5. Like those are good players. Those are good basketball players. You put them on the court, you're going to be a pretty good basketball team, but they need more versatility on the roster. And I think using 7 to get someone who maybe doesn't have positional versatility worries me. And specifically if that is like, someone who's mostly a rangeless center in the league. Like I think that worries me, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't be totally against Duren, because I think like the Blazers desperately need depth. I wouldn't, this isn't my choice. Let me be clear. I don't need to hedge here. Let me be clear. He wouldn't be my choice, but I don't think you draft him and he starts. Like I think you can draft him and he can come start and he can play behind Yusuf Nurkic to begin his career. If you sign Nurk to a multi-year contract and draft Jalen Duren, I think that's a mistake. I don't think they can play together because of the lack of shooting that either of them have. I think the passing would help, but you can go super big if someone can shoot a little bit, but neither of those guys can really shoot. And Nurk needs a lot of space to operate. He's best with a lot of space down in the post. Like that's how you maximize Nurk is don't have him get crowded. But yeah, so I think if Nurk is in fold, Duren doesn't fit, and I don't think if you want to be a good team, you can start a rookie at center. Like if you were to move on from Nurk or sign and trade Nurk for some sort of other upgrade, whatever that may be, like you can be a good team with a rookie playing big center minutes. So he's not my choice. He just, and it's really the versatility point and the center point. I think there's a world in which the Blazers trade back from 7 to like 13, 15, 16. And if Duren's still on the board, you go for it, right? Like I'm not anti-center. The Blazers need big players. Like in fact, like last season, you saw when they just like kind of ran out of tall people to play, like it was a struggle for them. Then it was an intentional struggle for them, and that was a whole different thing. But there was a middle period there where they just didn't have enough center depth. They just needed other big players on the roster, and they just didn't quite have it. I think they could upgrade the front line, and I think that matters. And I think Duren is probably a long-term NBA player. From what I've read, like I think the size and the athleticism, the defensive instincts he possesses now at 18, 19, and one of the younger players in this draft has a lot of room to grow. Yeah, I think he's there. And I think if you had a team with, more glaring need in the middle, which the Blazers don't necessarily have right now, and more patience to say, okay, this guy in year 2 and year 3 will have a major role, then yeah, like this could be a really useful and helpful selection. I think, but when you're specifically talking about the Blazers, you're specifically talking about 7, he's not for me, not my choice. If you disagree, shoot me an email, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com, or just sound off in the Twitter. Please don't tweet at me. Sound off in the YouTube comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts on where you think Duren fits and what you would do at 7. I think this is like as we move our way into the draft, we're like about 2 weeks away as you're hearing this. This is Tuesday, June 7th show. Thanks for listening. It's free on all platforms, 5 days a week. The Blazers are doing their due diligence with guys right in their range. Like, they've, Cronin was at the pro day to see AJ Griffin in LA. They brought Benedict Mathurin in. They're bringing Jalen Duren in. They've brought Dyson Daniels in. Like guys in their range are here. If I had to bet, I'd bet the Blazers won't use their pick, right? Like I would assume that they trade their pick either to trade back or trade out completely. All of the reporting suggests that the Blazers are trying to get veterans to help Dame immediately. Whether that's the right move or not, maybe is in the eyes of the beholder, but like that's all the reporting suggests they're trying to do that. So like what I'm trying to say is, while the Blazers seem to be doing their due diligence, they seem to be getting guys who are projected to go right in their range, and we'll see if you get a Jeremy Sohan that would come in, that type of that someone in that ilk that's also going to be right there. But like, they might just be doing this because it's what you do, and you want to like I've said a couple times in the show, like, know the value of the picks. If Duren wows you in workouts, if like his vertical leap is just like so wild at his size that you're like, okay, like this is a crazy lob threat we haven't had. Like, we haven't had a vertical threat like this. Maybe there's some real value here. Something like we just haven't had someone like, Damian Lillard hasn't really been able to throw a lob since J.J. Hickson left. So like, you do your due diligence, but I kind of think the Blazers are just smoke screening us, and that Duren coming in was a smoke screen. But I think, as I said on yesterday's show, like, it either means this is either super meaningful that he's coming in getting a solo workout, or super meaningless. And I think in some ways it's intended to be both. It gives the Blazers the data they need, but it also gives the impression that they are very serious about using 7. So whatever you want to read into it, feel free to do so. I just think like we're getting the picture of guys who are absolutely projected to go in their draft range, and they're coming in and the Blazers are meeting with them. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I don't think it necessarily, nothing has changed from my opinion in terms of whether they will trade the pick or not. If they can, I think they absolutely will trade 7 to upgrade the roster as best they can, which means that Duren just got to hang out in Portland for a day and be on regional television. All right, let's close the show. I was in a mock draft over the weekend. I want to share with you what I did, and then I want to invite you to tell me if I got it right or not. It was a full 2 rounds. So I even made a pick at 57. So join me in the third segment, and I will tell you what I did. Spoiler alert. I landed Keegan Murray. Not bad, huh? Come with me and find out the rest of what I did. But first, let me tell you about Built Bar. They've expanded into the world of granola. It's just wonderful news. How about it? You want granola bars that have 15 grams of protein? You want granola bars that come in 3 wonderful flavors? You want granola bars that pack a punch and are still delicious? Well, guess what? Built Bars cracked the code. Plus, they still got all the other protein bars that you know and love. They got other products out there too. They're always finding ways to make new and delicious things. So go to Built.com, see what they got, find some new flavors, try some granola bars, try some protein bars, find what you like, order some more. And while you're there, use the promo code LOCKED15. You get 15% off your next order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers. Jalen Duren was in Portland today. But in the mock draft over the weekend that I participated in, I did not select him when I had the number 7 overall pick. I want to walk you through, it was a community mock. Like, this is just like draft enthusiasts participating in mock. I was invited by Richard Stamen of at MavsDraft on Twitter and MavsDraft.com to represent the Trailblazers in a full 2-round mock. No trades in this one. When it was your turn, you made your pick. You couldn't wheel and deal. There's a future one coming out. I'll just let you know about this. On the Locked On Network, where we were allowed to wheel and deal, and boy did I try to. Boy did I work the phones wheeling and dealing in that one. But in this one, there was no trades allowed. You just made your selection. So I went ahead and I had 7. And here's how the draft broke out. Orlando went Chet Holmgren. Oklahoma City took Jabari Smith Jr., Houston, Paolo Banchero, Sacramento took Jaden Ivey, Detroit took Benedict Mathurin, and Indiana took AJ Griffin. I would say Mathurin and Griffin were relative surprises for me. So when I was on the board, this was a no-brainer. If I had been there, I would have been sprinting up to the podium with my card with Keegan Murray on there. I think Murray is as close to a perfect fit for what the Blazers need as there is in this draft. I think, he's 22, and people treat 22-year-olds like they're old and ancient, and that's in the NBA draft, and that's fine. Like, if you think lacks the upside of maybe some teens, like I said, choose your own adventure. To me, he's the perfect fit for the Blazers. Really productive, can slot him in at power forward. I don't know if he's a day 1 starter at power forward, but he's probably a day 1 contributor. He can shoot it. He can score in transition. He can defend a little bit. Like, I think he's going to be a player in the league. I don't know. All-star, I don't know, but player in the league. And I think at 7, what you're looking for is a long-term starter. I think Keegan Murray is a long-term starter. That was a no-brainer for me. Other names on the board that I would have considered were Dyson Daniels, who went immediately after. I think that was where I'm at is that my preferred names, like for the Blazers at 7, are Mathurin and Dyson Daniels. That's Benedict Mathurin from Arizona, who worked out for the Blazers on Sunday. I did a whole show about him yesterday if you want to check that one out. But when Mathurin was off the board, but Keegan Murray was still on it, that changed my thinking. The other names that are sort of on my radar at that pick are AJ Griffin, along with those, and Jeremy Sohan from Baylor. But I'll be honest, I'm kind of souring on Sohan a little bit. I know that some people really, really like his defensive versatility. I worry about what he does on offense. I know that he's got some ball handling skills and he's gigantic, and I might end up loving him in the NBA. But like as I read about him, like I said, I'm a draft novice learning about it along with you, dear listener. I'm not a big Sohan guy, but he would be 5th on my choices. I would probably go AJ Griffin over Sohan pretty comfortably. Another name people have thrown out there is Johnny Davis. I think he's going to be a good NBA player, but I don't like him for the Blazers. So at 7, I go Keegan Murray, and then I just chill because the Blazers don't pick until early in the second round. And at 36, when Portland comes up, the name I wanted, the person I want to go with was Jake LaRavia out of Wake Forest. This is in some ways, this is just my like ACC bias. I'm a Carolina guy. I watch ACC. I watch the only college basketball I watch the ACC because I watch Carolina. Jake LaRavia killed Carolina in one of their meetings this year, and I think he's a first round talent, and I was hoping that he would slip to 36. Like he's big and can shoot, and he has a lot of skills. He's maybe not this freaky deak athlete, but he's like a highly skilled, very big person, and that appeals to me. But he was off the board, so basically I was debating between 2 people at 36. It was Josh Minott from Memphis, who's like a 6'8" guy, 6'8" forward who came off the bench. Really good athlete. His per minute defensive numbers are wild, are just like excellent. 36 might be a little high for his range, so I was a little worried about him. So the other name that I was debating was him and Jalen Williams, big man from Arkansas. I decided to go Minott because I think you can never load up on enough 6'8" athletes. You add Keegan Murray, you add Minott, that's just like the prototype of player I want in the league. Minott as like a potential, just like really good sort of like Swiss Army knife energy defender as a second round pick really appeals to me. I think, he spent a season at Memphis and came off the bench, and his counting numbers are pretty pedestrian. He played less than 15 minutes a game. But again, like his per minute numbers and his advanced stats suggest that he might be really good in the league. Just like compared to other guys who produce about the same level on a per 36-minute basis. It's not exactly apples to apples, but it's apples to kumquats, and I've always enjoyed weird fruits, I guess. So yeah, I went Josh Minott from Memphis. Really good athlete, skinny 6'8" forward. Probably not a guy who can shoot in the league, which is maybe a little bit concerning, but rebounds, steals, block shots, plays above the rim. I liked him at 36. Let me know what you think. And then I just chilled again, and I had to wait around until the Blazers were back on the board at 59, the second to last pick in the draft. It's going to be a long night on draft night is what I learned. And I went with Alandis Williams, combo guard out of Wake Forest. That's right. I had targeted two Wake guys on my list when I was making my picks, or making my board, because I knew I had to go in the second half or I knew I was going to have to go late in the second round. I had to get some names on the board. Other guys I considered were Julian Champagnie, who worked out for the Blazers and went to St. John's. I think he's going to be he can shoot it. Like I think he's really good. I was basically debating between Alandis Williams and Champagnie. I kind of think Williams' his playmaking and his off the dribble creation really appeals to me. He's maybe a little slow on defense. He's maybe going to get cooked in the league because he's not a good enough athlete. But to me, his combination of pull up shooting and playmaking off the bounce is like skill sets that translate in the league. And as a backup combo guard, a guy you're getting the last pick in the draft, I thought he was worth taking a flyer. Also, just like I think there has been, he's ACC Player of the Year, and maybe this is like Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado bias, but like Herb Jones wins SEC Player of the Year. It's Jose Alvarado wins ACC Player of the Year. These guys are super productive, really good college basketball players, and they slip in the draft because they maybe don't fit the profile. I'm kind of willing to bet on production at the college level. Not always, but I'm like, to some extent, I'm just willing to bet on it. And Williams was the best player in the ACC, not named Armando Bacot or Paolo Banchero, but he still won the award. He was good. So that's my draft. Keegan Murray at 7. Josh Minott at 36. And at 57, we go with Alandis Williams from Wake Forest. Give me your picks. Shoot me an email, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com, and give me your 3 picks, 7, 36, and 57. No trades, no nothing. Don't get if you write me a whole long email, I'm just gonna skip to the part where you tell me the picks anyways. But send me your picks, or if you're watching on YouTube, shoot your picks below for 7, 36, and 57. Shoot me your 3 picks, no trades, and below. I will share some listener selections. You don't worry about it for the second round because it's too confusing, but Holmgren, Smith, Banchero, Ivy, Mathurin, Griffin already off the board. Holmgren, Smith, Banchero, Ivy, Mathurin, Griffin already off the board. So you're at 7 with your choice between Keegan Murray and Jalen Duren and Dyson Daniels, whoever it might be. Take your pick under those parameters. I will share some of them later this week. We'll do our community mock. I was in a community mock, and I'm inviting you, dear listener, to be involved in a community mock. I'm also inviting you, dear listener, to come back tomorrow. Listen to tomorrow's show. We got more fun draft stuff. I got a couple interviews. They're going to be later in the week. So if you want to hear kind of insights into how the Blazers do draft stuff, got a fun interview that you can hear most likely on Friday of this week. Haven't nailed it down completely, but do not miss that one. But there's going to be shows the rest of the week. We're going to talk draft stuff. We're going to talk Blazers rumors. They have just stayed in the news consistently because they are big game hunting this summer with relatively limited assets, and that makes them a pretty darn intriguing team. So tell your friends to search Locked On Blazers wherever they're looking for us. They will find us, all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Make it part of your daily routine. Listen every day as your first listen. Start your morning, listen to Locked On Blazers, and then you and your friends will have something to talk about. How about it? Appreciate you listening. Talk to you soon.